Hi and welcome to RCKicks. On today's show, well, we're back working on the Trickbits YZ10R. In this episode, we're going to do some more changes to the setup, put in new electronics to make it go that little bit quicker. Then we're going to take it to the track and put it directly against my PR Racing SB401.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Modern buggy to see whether we can bring this vintage buggy up to the same lap times on the same track with the same electronics. So if you're interested in seeing how that goes, you better stay tuned. So since we took out the YZ10R for a shakedown run in the last video, I had some sort of standard electronics that I used in it, but now we're going to upgrade them to the Corsa-Tech set that I have. Now I did use the Corsa-Tech set and I put them in the Durga when we took the Durga and run it against the PR Racing SB401. But as I'm going to be raffling off this roller, I've removed them and we're going to reuse them again. If you'd be interested in a chance to win this for a few dollars and a few pounds, I'll put a link in the description. Head over there. I don't think it's got very long left, so you need to be quick on that one. So the Corsa-Tech electronics that we're going to put in the car. Now this is a CT310 Pro Race 220 amp ESC. And I know what you're thinking straight away, 220 amps in a 1/10. Well, the advantage to that is that the ESC barely does any work at all and it can handle a load more power. I actually don't run the ESC with the fan on it as it just doesn't get hot enough. Even on the really hot days where I've been racing over the summer, on an indoor track, it gets warm, but it doesn't get super hot. So I can have the car running very quiet and I can take the weight off of having the ESC fan on it. Super impressed with the Corsa-Tech stuff. It feels really nice to drive, to dial in with the onboard app that you can just connect straight to the ESC with no dongles or anything. Makes life so much easier. And I just like the progressive feel of the car and the punch and just pure power that you have on tap if you need it. Also, the Corsa-Tech motor that I'm running is a CT40014. That's a 6.5 turn brushless sensored motor, loads of power. And on the indoor track that I run on, don't really use quite as much power as that, but it's nice to have such an amazing amount of punch, and the car runs pretty cool even when I do a 5-minute stint. So fitting these in the car was pretty straightforward. There's quite a bit of space in the actual car itself, so it's not that difficult to do. One thing I've got left to do is I want to upgrade the receiver to their latest version. I've only got one of those and I've got it in my PR Racing, so I will order one of those and hopefully it will come by the time we go back racing again after the summer break. So since the shakedown, I've talked to Albie about what setup changes I should make to suit more of an indoor track. Albie sent me a load of information and a few things to dial in and change. So the first thing we did was the pivot rear blocks I changed to a 2-degree anti-squat. Then the rear hubs I changed to a 1-degree toe-in. Then the front caster blocks, I put a 4-degree caster blocks. They all come in the race tuning kit that Albie does. So I swapped those over. I had that already, but I needed to get the spring set. So he sent me over the spring set for it as well, as I needed to change over some of the springs and some of the oils. Now in the rear, I'm currently running the blue spring, which is the 2.5 pound, and the front is a 4.7 pound green. So I had to change over, I think it was a red and yellow, I think it was, that I had previously in it. Let me just check. Yellow and red 4.3. So I've gone from a 4.3 to a 4.7 pound spring, and it needed it just to stiffen up the front a little bit more. Now I did have both anti-roll bars on the car at the beginning, and Albie did say to at least take the front one off, and you can also take off the rear one and see how you get on, and then maybe run a 1.6 anti-roll bar on the rear. Well, on the first run, the run that you're going to see in this episode, I left them on because I was quite happy with it. Later on, I did remove the front one, and yes, it improved it. As the first run and the run you're going to see today, I was waiting for the front end to turn in. It wasn't biting as much as I'd like, so removing the anti-roll bar fixed that straight away and really helped make the car more drivable. As for the oils and the piston hole sizes, the the ones he recommended was to have a 1.5mm in the front and run a 40 weight or 500 CST in the front, and take the 1.6 that's currently in it and put that in the back, as the back has a 1.7 and the 1.6 should be in the back. So my plan is I need to buy a set of 1.5 pistons and then I can put them in the front and then move the front to the back. So what I did, while I don't have that, to match his, well, to get a little bit closer to his actual setup, I actually put 45 weight 550 CST oil in the front. Even though I'm running a 0.1mm larger hole, I went up slightly on the viscosity of the oil to hopefully make it closer-ish. On the rear, I'm currently running the same oil as well. So overall, I'm quite happy with it. Now, one thing he did send me as well was some 4mm spacers to put on the shafts of the shocks. Apparently, this helps stop the diving of the chassis, and I did put it on the front, but I don't think I've fitted it to the rear yet. I'll have to go back and put it in the rear, but it's an ongoing development. So I think that pretty much covers all the changes that we've made so far. So let's take it to the track and see how it does against my PR Racing SB401 modern buggy. Right, so these are my best two runs from both cars, well, as clean as I could get them. Now, we set off at the same time, so I've set the beginning to be in line, even though I was first in one heat and I was second in the next. The bottom is the PR Racing and the top one is the YZ, obviously. Times are on the left there, and after the first lap it's 13:31 and 13:47, so slightly behind on the YZ. Now, I did make a few little mistakes, especially on the YZ, so it kind of put the car back a little bit, but I did get a reasonable number of clean laps, so we can really look at those and compare the data against each other. Now, the footage you're seeing from the YZ is done with the front anti-roll bar fitted. Later on, I removed this and it really helped the bite on the front of the car. While I'm driving, as you're looking at it now, I'm having to wait, especially around the top corner. I am off the power, letting the car turn in. Later on, when I removed the anti-roll bar, it was biting much better and I could actually put more power down to get around the corners. At this part of the qualifying, we've managed to pull away a little bit with the PR Racing. We're about 2 or 3 corners ahead. We set a blistering lap on lap 4 with a 12:54 from the PR Racing. Lap 5 was very close at a 13:60 against a 13:69 from the YZ10. We now move on to lap 6, and again pretty close at 13.14 against 13.82. Bits is about to lose a little bit of time against the back marker there, so that added a fraction of a second onto lap 7. So we have 13.24 for the PR Racing and 14.40 for the Trickbits. The YZ is losing time in the top right hand 180 degrees before the straight, as I'm having to wait before I can put the power down. Now, I'm still getting used to this car. I have done almost 0 hours with it. Also, I've made a reasonable number of changes and I just need to build up more confidence so that when I turn into a corner with loads of power on, that I know it's actually going to stick. But the Trickbits just set its fastest lap on lap 9 at 13.06. So it's definitely got way more in it, and as I'm driving it now, it does feel like the chassis has got more in it. It just needs to be dialed in. I don't feel like I'm ragging the chassis at all compared to the PR Racing. I just have a lot more confidence with the PR Racing and a lot more experience with it. At this point in qualifying, the Trickbits is 6.79 seconds behind on lap 11. Now, if we look at the timing in the last 5 laps, the Trickbits is less than 0.4 or lower behind the PR Racing. Being how little experience I've had with the Trickbits car, I'm really pleased where it's at, and I know there's more potential in it that I can get out of it. Now, if you stop and think about it for a bit, that is a totally legal vintage buggy setting very close times to a modern buggy. So sooner or later, I'm going to drop this into the vintage class. Hopefully, we're going to do rather well. Now, things are getting a little bit scrappy and there's loads of cars on the straight, but I managed to work my way through it. Came off the power a little bit, but I got very lucky there, so it didn't really cost me a lot of time at all. And at this point, the PR Racing is looking like it could potentially catch the YZ10 to lap it. but unfortunately it doesn't go to plan for the PR Racing. We've had a few sloppy laps on lap 15 at 13.63 and 16 at 13.81, but the YZ doesn't really capitalise on it that much, as lap 15 again was quite a slow one at 14.18, but lap 16 it managed to claw back a little bit at 13.70. The PR Racing comes back at lap 17 for a 13.52, the Trickbits does a 13.29, so manages to breathe out a little bit, but lap 18 for the PR Racing at 14.43 again drops it back a little bit. But the Trickbits doesn't utilise that and puts in an even slower time at 15.11. Now the PR Racing is only one corner behind, lapping the Trickbits, and then it all goes wrong and I overcook it over the jump, and that burns up tons of time and gives the Trickbits a breather to try to claw back a bit more time. So when we come round and lap 20, yes, the PR Racing was at 17.77, the slowest lap of the race. And then the Trickbits comes back round and does a lap of 14.53, so it manages to claw back 3 seconds and another couple of corners. Due to that PR Racing mistake, the Trickbits is only 8.41 seconds behind. Lap 21, 13.49 for the PR Racing and 13.21 for the Trickbits. Lap 22 for the PR Racing is very sloppy at 14.63, and the YZ10 shaves off a massive 1.56 seconds on lap 22. But the PR Racing pushes through and gets lap 23 at 13.58. Right, let's crunch the numbers and see what we got. So the fastest lap of the day, it goes to the PR Racing at 12.54, while the Trickbits could only make 13.06. Average time 13.58 versus the 13.94 from the Trickbits. Then we look at the best 10, 13.34 versus the PR Racing's 13.06. So overall, really happy with it considering where we are versus the amount of track time that I've put in. But we've still got to shave off a little bit more per lap for the Trickbits. Just wanted to show you a bit of footage taken later on in the evening. I'm not sure what qualifying round this was, but I'd removed the front anti-roll bar. And if you look, you'll see it's much tighter on that top 180 corner and there past the stage. It can turn in much better. Should have listened to Albie in the first place, but there we go. But I'm really enjoying driving it, and it is shaving off some of the times. Now the reason I didn't use this whole race is because I didn't finish it. Yep, you're about to see in a little while what actually happened, and it didn't go to plan.
As my wheel fell off. As my wheel fell off. Maybe I should tighten that a bit more. Oh, I was doing so well.
Even with that DNF, I still managed to get into the A final, but this is going to be a hard one as some of these people are rather fast, but we'll hang in there as best we can. So let's see what the Trickbits can do.
Whoa! Oh! What was that? I broke it. No. Broke it. Damn it. That went well. I broke the steering.
So there you go, I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. Yes, I managed to break the steering, but Albie's sending me out another piece and I'm going to return the broken one so we can take a look at it. But yeah, I just went into that corner way too fast. The person in front of me, I don't know whether they slowed down a little bit as I seem to have got right onto them, but I just overcooked it into that corner. I'm not sure if I'd have made that corner if they were there or not, but that's the final, getting overexcited. But overall, very pleased with it. It's coming along nicely. There's still more in it that we need to dial out of it. I'm definitely going to get the correct pistons. Also, I'm going to try it without the rear anti-roll bar, see what that does. As for the weight of it, well, it's super light anyway, but maybe I'll start changing some of the screws out for titanium. We'll just have to wait and see. But when we go racing again, I will take it back again and see if we can get to the PR racing. Also, I may then book it in to run in the vintage. So let's see what we can do there as well. So we'll just have to wait and see. Thanks so much. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.